Welcome to this ToolHound Learning Center video on tracking service with work orders. We'll look at combining the core service module with other ToolHound features to support the challenges of day-to-day repairs and preventative maintenance tracking. So when do you need to use work orders to track service? Whenever you need to maintain a full history or audit trail for service either with or without approvals, tracking details, costs, and possibly checklists. Today we'll walk through 3 common workflows for tracking service with work orders from start to finish. Carrying out repairs on site after a service request has been created, outsourced preventative maintenance, and an in-house service division dedicated to handling all service and repairs. In this scenario, one of the personnel who has his own login for creating requisitions is reporting a tool that needs repair using a service request. We'll walk through creating the service request and completing the repair. Quentin has run into a problem with the grinder issued to him. On the service request page, he'll click plus, enter the item ID for the grinder, select the task for a general repair, then enter the priority and the status. In the problem field, he'll describe what is the issue. Next, he'll click attachments to attach a picture of the problem with the grinder. And he'll save the attachment. Saving the service request generates the work order number. The inventory or warehouse manager can then look up the work order that was generated from the service request, including the attachment, and can even check the details of the item itself straight from the work order. We'll proceed with the work order by setting it ready to approve. With no approval process, it's automatically approved. We can enter comments on either the Completion or Notes tab. To close the work order, we'll change the status to Closed and verify the close date on the Completion tab. Next, we can add charges for outside costs. In this case, we'll have a vendor that supplied some parts, and we'll enter the cost in. And finally, we'll save the work order. By using the hyperlink to the item ID, we can view the work order history for the item, and we can see the work order number, the date it was completed, its status, and the costs associated. In this scenario, we're gathering all tools for a specific part requiring an annual calibration and sending them out to a third-party vendor in advance of the busy season. We'll determine what needs to be calibrated and create the work orders. Next, we'll issue them using a custom transaction type to a vendor set up as a personnel record so we can track them. When the inventory comes back, we'll track the costs and the calibration documents. Finally, we'll follow up on any tools that didn't make it back. We're going to use the Service Due wizard. We can select the stocking location and the date the service is due as of. This gives us a list of items that are due. We'll filter by the description for only torque wrenches, and we can see that gives us about a dozen. We'll set the status and the priority for the work orders to be generated, and then select the entire filtered list. Clicking Save generates the work orders. We can click the work order number to view the details of the work order itself, then set it to Approved. And we can optionally print the work order to go along with the shipment of torque wrenches. And we'll repeat this for each one of the torque wrenches going out for calibration. Next, we'll create a transaction so we know exactly where the torque wrenches are and why. Using the third-party vendor as the entity and a custom transaction type out for repair, we'll issue all of the torque wrenches. Since we've chosen to print out the work orders, there's no need to print out the transaction receipt. We can now look up the part number, and viewing the Items tab, it's very clear that all of the torque wrenches are out for repair to Westcan Calibration. As each torque wrench comes back, we can update the work order with the calibration document. Close the work order and add in any associated costs. Jumping to the item details, we can see that it's still issued out for repair, but the work order history shows a summary of the work that was carried out. We'll return all the items that came back to make them available for issue. To follow up with the vendor on the torque wrenches that weren't returned, we can use the Issued Assets email and enter a custom message to appear in the body of the email. We can see the custom message, the details of each torque wrench, and the date it went out. In this scenario, the in-house service department uses background notifications to prioritize regular PM and track inspections. We'll start by creating a work order, take the equipment out of service while the work is going on, and issue the tools and consumables required to carry out the service. We'll then complete an inspection checklist before putting the equipment back in service, returning the tools used, and review the item service details. The service team receives an email with everything that's overdue and coming due for service. For efficiency, let's use service due to generate a list of everything that is overdue for service. We see the air compressor and the scissor lift. Let's create the work order required for the PM for the scissor lift. Jumping to the work order that's been created, we'll select the Checklist tab, and we can see the built-in checklist for this work order. The checklist was added to the preventative maintenance task. Let's set the work order ready to approve, and with no approval process in place, it's automatically approved. To take the scissor lift out of service, let's change the item status to a custom inventory status. On the Change Item Status page, we'll select the new inventory status that we created specifically for service, unavailable out of service, and we'll enter a reason that explains the change in status. Back on the Work Orders page, when we refresh this work order and select the Assets tab, we can see that the status is updated. We're now ready to proceed with the service. On the Work to Do tab, we'll set the scheduled date and assign this work order to someone from the team to carry out the work. Next, we'll save the change to the work order. This preventative maintenance task requires inventory, both tools and consumables, to carry out the work. Let's go ahead and issue them out to the team member who was assigned to the work order, directly from the work order page. On the Transaction Details tab, we can see the issue that was created, and we can jump straight to the transaction. The issue used a custom transaction type, so we know that this is being used for service. Now that we have all the tools and materials required to complete the service, let's work our way through the checklist. With the PM checklist completed, the scissor lift is ready to go back into service. So let's change the item status back. On the Change Item Status page, we'll select the new inventory status of in stock and enter a reason for the status change. Back on the Work Orders page, we can enter any notes about the work done on the Completion tab and finally close the work order. Now that the service is complete and the scissor lift is available to be sent out again, we need to return the inventory that was checked out for the service. Viewing the scissor lift, we can see that the service requirements have been updated with the date the work order was closed. And the Work Order History tab is updated with the notes and the costs associated with the consumables that were issued out against the work order. Let's review what we've learned so far. Use work orders when a complete history or audit trail is needed. You can capture costs, documents, multiple other types of data using work orders, and use notifications to streamline any process. You can leverage custom transaction types, inventory types, and statuses for better tracking. Thanks for watching this video from the ToolHound Learning Center. For any questions, contact our technical support team. And remember, subscribe and hit the notification bell.